Welcome to another edition of Sparky Help. This time the rule of thumb max ZS for protective devices. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much. So why do we need protective devices in the first place? Well, here's an extract from the IET. A protective device shall automatically interrupt the line conductor, obviously, when we have a fault of negligible impedance. That means 0 ohms between the line conductor and the protective conductor or exposed conductive part, of which more often than not that is the earth or CPC. So here's the circuit, and there we have our overcurrent protective device connected to the earthing system, in this case a TNS, and ZS, which would be measured at the furthest point of any circuit. What's the significance of ZS? It's the furthest point and therefore the highest ohmic value, right the way back to the star point, which consists of ZE plus R1 and R2. And R1 and R2 are your circuits. And when we have a fault of negligible impedance at the end, that therefore is the fault path, the earth fault loop path. And what we want is maximum current to flow. Maximum current to flow will cause the protective device to disconnect in the quickest possible time. And here we've got a protective device, a BS7871, which is a fuse, and we can see a 10 amp device. If you want it to go quicker, it needs more current. And there we've got the table to represent how much current is required for a particular disconnection time, from 60 down to 32 amps for 5 seconds. So the amount of current that flows will determine the disconnection time for fuses. Therefore, to allow that maximum current to flow, there needs to be a maximum permitted ZS, or impedance of that circuit, and that is recorded on this test sheet here. And that's got a funny little squiggle, like an S, I don't know what the symbol's called, but on the note on the bottom it says where the maximum permitted earth fault loop impedance value stated in column 12, that's the one with the red mark, is taken from a source other than BS7671 chapter 41, then you should write in the remarks column where you get it from, which therefore indicates it can be different. And they are. And this is from the on-site guide, as we say, and let's look at the 10 amp from the BS7671, the IET wiring regulations. And we can see that in the on-site guide it is a maximum value of 3.5. In the IET it is, from BS7671, it is 4.37. What's the difference between the two? Well, the on-site guide is based at an ambient temperature of 10 degrees, whereas the BS7671 is based at an ambient temperature of 70. And as we know then, conductors have a positive temperature coefficient. Check out my video on temperature coefficient. But taking that into account, that if we heat a conductor up, its resistance will rise, and therefore the maximum ZS, based at 70 degrees for this particular device, has that value there. And there we see the on-site guide, which is based at 10 degrees, is based at a lower value. And as you can see then, it would change, and does change, with temperature. So let's put a device in now, the 10 amp, type B, circuit breaker, and the current therefore would flow. Therefore the maximum ZS that we would take, if we took literally what it asked for, which is from BS7671, would be the 4.37 ohms. And we put that in on the test sheet under column 12. Therefore, this is the maximum that protective device is allowed to have. Let's go back to this then, and let's work it out. And let's put some figures in. So let's give a ZE of 0.8 ohms and a tested R1, R2 value of 2.75. Now this 2.75 is, I'm making an assumption that it was tested on an ambient temperature when tested at 15 degrees, which is warmer than the 10, which means it possibly the resistance was slightly higher. And if we add those up, giving the ZS of 3.55, we now have our maximum ZS for this particular circuit. And therefore we can calculate the current that would flow based at that tested temperature. And therefore it comes out at 64.79 amps. However, when the cable is up and running, its temperature will probably go up. And it could go up to, let's say, 70 degrees, which is might be the maximum operating temperature of that conductor. And I've already done the calculation for that. Remember, these are at 15. And if it was to go up at 70, and it would only be the 2.75 that would change ohmic value. We ignore the ZE part because they are much bigger cables and not our cables. That means the fault current would drop to about 56.1 amps. So you can see when tested you would get 64.7 amps, 64.8 amps. But if the cable was allowed to go up to its maximum, which it probably would or could, then fault current would drop to 56, which means its disconnection time could take longer. But we're going to stick with our 3.55 because that's what we tested. So we'll add the values on so we can put our R1, R2 in, which was 2.65, and we can calculate what our maximum ZS is, and that is 3.55. What we need to do now is confirm whether this circuit passes or fails for maximum ZS. So if we go back to the previous sheet, which now we have the circuit details, we have 4.37 is the maximum, it would look as though it passes, but remember this 4.37 is from BS7671, which is based at 70 degrees, and we have tested at about 15 degrees. So we'd have to compare these two values, but they're very difficult to compare when they're at different temperatures. So we need to do something to it, and this is where the rule of thumb comes in. We can basically convert all the BS7671 values into the on-site guide values or lower values if we find 80%, so multiply by 0.8. 4.37 multiplied by 0.8, and that comes to 3.496. So we need to be under that value. Therefore, this circuit would fail if we used the rule of thumb. And the rule of thumb, remember, is a basic guide. If we look at the on-site guide value, and if we'd have used this value, then we can do a direct comparison. And we would see straight away, without using any multiplication whatsoever, that the maximum value was 3.5. We are 3.55, and technically this fails. And this would have involved no calculation at all. In summary then, the rule of thumb, when testing or calculating ZS on site, use the on-site guide max ZS values for comparison. This avoids doing any calculation. If you do use BS7671, we can multiply all those values by 0.8 to compare with your measured or calculated ZS. Or if you want to be super accurate, you could actually correct your test values for the actual temperature. And if we were to do that on this example that I put forward, it's a possibility that the circuit does actually pass. But it's probably easier just to stick to rule of thumb and use that, because it's very rarely would you be on that borderline, but if you did, you could apply it. I hope that's been helpful. This is Sparky Help. Thank you very much.